What's going on, everybody? This is Peter coming at you through the tubes of the internet. Today, taking a look at the latest release from Jeff Rosenstock, an album called No Dream. I'm excited to discuss and glad you could join. Before we get started, I just want to take a quick second to say Black Lives Matter and express solidarity with everyone fighting for equality by any means necessary. If you're not with it 100%, then get the absolute fuck off my channel. You're not a punk, you're a poser, and you're definitely not welcome here. All cops are bastards, abolish the police, no justice, no peace, and Black Lives fucking matter.
Fast Facts.
No Dream, released May 20th, 2020 via Polyvinyl Records, is the fourth studio LP from New York City-based folk punk artist Jeff Rosenstock. This act is primarily the solo project of frontman Jeff Rosenstock, but he works with a backing and touring band of frequent collaborators like bassist John DiDomenici, drummer Kevin Higuchi, guitarist Mike Hajuanor, and keyboardist Dan Podthist.
Backstory.
Jeff Rosenstock is a legend in the DIY punk scene. As a pioneer utilizing the internet to freely distribute music, his quote-unquote record label took the anti-capitalist sentiments often found in his lyrics and put them into practice by releasing the entire catalogs of his myriad bands like Bomb the Music Industry at no cost to the listener. Rosenstock's unique brand of complex and spazzy but still accessible punk showed that music could be both free of charge and top quality as he combines slice-of-life stories with incisive political commentary. Moving into the modern era and dropping the BTMI name, Jeff swapped some of his raw punk edge for more indie sensibilities. Using theatrical, progressive compositions in conjunction with his brash sound, he's matured into a widely accessible alt crossover act. This latest album, No Dream, often has a bright and summery feel while reflecting on the inequalities of the modern world. Jeff uses tried and true musical approaches and infuses them with larger-than-life melodies for another incredible accomplishment from an all-time great artist.
Track-by-track analysis.
This release has 13 tracks and clocks in at 40 minutes. I feel like this is a touch on the long side considering the composition of the record. Jeff has a tendency to overindulge on certain instrumental movements, and here that happens on several different tracks. It's a super minor gripe though, and any lulls in the action have countervailing moments of complete captivation. It's tough to fault this overall setup, but maybe just a bit excessive at a couple points.
Track 1, No Time.
Jeff bursts out of the gate here with a series of leading questions for the listener, asking, are you able to cope with modern life in Hell World, and if so, how and why? In a 1-minute blast of punk, Rosenstock states he hasn't had time to self-actualize, and wonders if being comfortable is even appropriate in these times, given it means tuning out the suffering of others to do so. The song's presented with an in-your-face intensity that recalls Jeff's early material, but it also has a pleasant, tuneful quality that shows his evolution. He's mastered this balance, and it leads to an awesome opener that sets the tone for an energetic record.
Track 2, Nike's Alt.
These bitches want Nike.
Nah.
Looking down the barrel of a shitty future.
The chuggy punk continues on to the second tune where bubbly melodies accompany Rosenstock feeling unfulfilled. The titular line lands perfectly with this theme as Jeff reflects on the futility of finding peace through consumerism. The idea that there's no vacant bliss expands on the theme from the last cut, where escapism doesn't lead to comfort unless you have a sociopathic disregard for your fellow man. All these positives considered, this song just doesn't really do it for me overall. Jeff seems like he's playing it a little safe for the sake of accessibility up front, and the proto-punk simplicity, paired with the vocal melodies that don't quite get their hooks in me, leaves this one at the lower end of the record. Still a fun enough pop cut though.
Track 3, Scram.
I've been told for most my life, wait until the perfect.
Here, Rosenstock targets bad faith actors and asks the burning question, don't you ever feel like just fucking off? Like, if you're the type of person who concern trolls to stifle progress, or if your political opinions are hinged on making others feel dumb and small, then Jeff makes it abundantly clear on this track that he'll be paying you no mind.
Yeah, I'm not listening to you.
That unequivocal punk attitude, combined with one of the stickiest hooks on the entire record, makes the cut leap out of the speakers, and the double pedal breakdown used for this cut's bridge cranks the intensity to the max. The band introduced novel musical elements to back the infectious vocal melody, and this is my favorite track on the release.
Track 4, No Dream.
They were separating families carelessly under the guise of protecting you and me.
On the album's title track, Jeff and Co. build out from a simple, folksy guitar riff into one of the most blistering hardcore bursts in Rosenstock's entire catalog. If there is any doubt about Jeff being didactic or political up to this point, that's all gone here, because this tune takes a super direct approach in addressing current problems. Citing refugee family separation and the way capitalism feeds off dystopia, Jeff continues to expand on the idea that tuning out the world at large is no way to achieve tranquility. The album's thesis statement, "It's not a dream," serves a dual purpose on this cut, meaning A, this situation is miles from ideal, it's more of a nightmare than a dream, and B, that this is reality rather than just something conjured up in a sleeping brain. As the cut crosses the halfway point, the percussive, choppy delivery of that title line into the rapid stream of consciousness barrage of lyrics rivals the most extreme stuff Jeff did back in his BTMI days and makes for an excellent cut.
Track 5, State Line.
This tune's standout feature rings through right from the first few notes, in the form of a piercing guitar tone at the top of the mix. And while that effect has a shrill, almost alarm-esque quality, the lead melody that branches off from it is calm and serene, with a dreamy indie sound. And the rumbling tom-heavy drums that fill out the mix make this my favorite instrumental on the entire release. The lyrics here aren't particularly deep, but I think that's a big part of the appeal. Jeff's longing for a loved one comes through in a sweet and endearing way, as the track finds him wishing the pair were together on his travels. Even though he's miles away, carrying the memory of this person snaps him into summery, halcyon times. I love the little details of the other stuff he's taking with him across the state line, but the real star here is just that perfect vocal melody. It burns itself into my brain in the best possible way, and I think this song's incredible.
Track 6, Fame.
Did you lose the magic? Did you make it tragic?
This track is defined by how it builds. The first verse has a menacing tone with palm-muted chords under a clunky lyrical delivery, but it has a ton of places to go from there and opens up into a full-on rocker within the first minute. Thematically, this track, Fame, matches up pretty closely with Jeff's song Hall of Fame from We Cool, where both are hinged on the idea of being built up onto a pedestal only to be knocked back down. The bridge here finds Rosenstock repeating the line, "You will not control," dozens of times, and what starts out as a defiant mantra against constraint seems to shift into a robotic trance that highlights the futility of fighting back against the norm. I love how Jeff uses the production to create very distinct parts here, and the cut grows into something that's going to be insanely intense live, especially with the return of that double kick pedal sound. I think on the record it's a bit too long to land 100%, but I still love what he's going for here, and I think it's a good track.
Track 7, Leave It in the Sun.
Don't let me know all the reasons that it probably shouldn't work.
Here, Jeff uses a grinding, buzzy guitar backing to describe a non-confrontational approach to dealing with problems, just putting issues on the back burner until they fade away into obscurity. Early verses see him apply this process to past relationships or criticism of his music, but the last lines here really nail the theme with a story about
An empty beer can pyramid on a shaky table in a stranger's home.
even with this fragile and petty, meaningless thing he's built, he doesn't have the heart to outright confront and destroy it, and instead just walks away and lets someone else clean up the mess. It's a quick cut at just 2 minutes, but I think the metaphor is really impactful, and the driving instrumentation makes this an awesome tune. Big thumbs up here.
Track 8, The Beauty of Breathing.
Sometimes I wanna take the car out on the road, flip it into park and smash myself into a million little pieces.
On this track, Jeff takes a cue from his buddy Sean Bennett as he describes mangling himself to bits in a car accident on the opening lines.
Wanna break apart my heart, little pieces to my car, crash it into a wall, I don't wanna feel it.
Themes here deal with Rosenstock's inability to find solace in meditation or mindfulness, because whenever he tries to clear his head, insecurities come rushing in to overwhelm his thoughts. He's doubtful things will get better because he's identified his problems and just can't fix them. This depressive subject matter stands in stark contrast to the bubbly delivery of the cut, where Beach Boys-esque backing harmonies give a doo-woppy feel, and springy strings have a summery quality. I don't exactly love this cut, but I do think it brings some interesting ideas to the table, and it fits the overall themes of the album really well.
Track 9, Old Crap.
Rip your friends off, write a new song, call it shame, and claim it's indelible truth.
This track takes its title literally as Jeff returns to his lo-fi roots with a flat acoustic guitar tone as the only accompaniment for his distorted vocal for the first half of the tune. Lyrics describe rehashing old wounds and stunted development as a result. The full band jump in for the latter half of the track, but the gloom factor remains at the forefront. Cloudy surf rock with ping-ponging guitars backs Jeff struggling to suppress negative feelings. I think this song's kind of a drag, but that's definitely what he was going for here. Rosenstock describes feeling like a bad person, but how can you not in a heartless country that rewards the worst behavior? I'm on board for anything with an anti-nostalgic message, and he nails that tone here. Nice tune.
Track 10, BNB.
Sam, your mom has secretly been renting out your home. I used your shower sponge when you went to Spain alone.
Here, Jeff follows in the tradition of tunes like Everybody That Loves You, where he observes the trappings of a random person's life and pieces together their character based on those snippets. It's a really interesting twist on the album's running theme of escapism, because Jeff not only inhabits these characters' homes while out on his travels, he also sort of inhabits their headspace. There's funny elements here, and the tune's an upbeat rocker, but there's definitely an underlying sadness infused throughout. Jeff leaving these rental properties means he also has to retreat back into his own depressed brain, and the only reason he's in these people's homes in the first place is because their families are strapped for cash. The rhymes here are just so damn tight, and the twinkly xylophones mesh perfectly with the chugging guitars. It's an emotional roller coaster of a song, but super enjoyable throughout. Another standout track on an already great record.
Track 11, Monday at the Beach.
Lots of tunes on this release have a vacation vibe, but this track in particular seems like it could have been a direct outtake from that last bomb record. From the summery theme to the looming dread over the tune, Jeff's gonna try to make the most of his situation, but there's all these factors on the periphery that could rain on his parade, both literally and figuratively. At just a minute, this track's a quick burst, but even as a transitional cut, it nails the tone of the release. A small but mighty tune here as the album's starting to wind down.
Track 12, Honeymoon Ashtray.
Manifestation of ambitions shattered.
Jeff maxes out the melancholy for this penultimate cut, where trash and dust build up in layers around him, and he lacks the ambition to improve his surroundings. These cluttered and messy conditions mirror his emotional state too, and leave a nihilistic despondency hanging over him.
Doesn't mean that it really matters. Yeah, honestly, it doesn't even matter.
The song's actively trying to be stretched out and draining to represent wasted time, and it's accomplished this perfectly by the 3-minute mark, but then it just keeps going. This is the one track on the record I don't particularly like, just because it's too goddamn long. It's samey throughout and gets tedious. A similar theme is executed much better on the closer, so thumbs down here for me.
Yeah, seek the cracks and surely you will find.
Track 13, Ohio Turnpike.
Ohio Turnpike, another hour or two.
On this final tune, Jeff details the last leg of his travels home. Driving a couple hours, dropping off a rental car, flying through the night, waiting at baggage claim, hailing a cab, all to finally arrive back with his loved one who makes him feel less alone. True to form for this release, the cut builds over its runtime, becoming more choppy and rhythmic as it moves along, until Rosenstock and Co. whip themselves into a frenzy for the final stretch.
You're the only person that I wanted to like me. Yeah.
It's a solid closer that really feels like the end of a journey. The album branches out in lots of directions, but here it feels like it's reached its destination. Definitely a satisfying tune to end on.
Verdict.
Overall, I love this album. It features some of Jeff's hardest hitting stuff from his solo career, and it just flat out rips. There might be slightly better lyricists out there, and there's definitely more skilled technical musicians, but Rosenstock is just the complete package. He's an all-time great song structure, and that's on full display here. My running theory's been that this release sounds like it picks up where Bomb the Music Industry left off, and Vacation's one of my favorite albums of all time. This is the rare sequel that pretty much lives up to its predecessor. Maybe not quite perfect due to the pacing, but it definitely ranks up there with some of Jeff's best. For that reason, I'm going to give this album a score of 9.5 out of 10.
Gotta take a piece of you. Cross the state line like the red that seals my body, like the sun that steals my mind.
So that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on the record. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the release, my critique, or the review format in general. Making this is a lot of work, but also fun, and definitely worth it if it helps some people wrap their head around the record. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.